Yes. Hello.
Jeff, this is Joe.
Joe, great that you called. All right, we'll start like this. We're talking with Joe Hasselvander, extraordinary metal musician. You can't just corner him into one spot here. First off, let's really talk about this great work from Black Widow Records called The Ninth Hour. I really want to go song by song. I have favorites. However, it's one of those albums and recordings that I don't skip. There's rare. I think I only have like 4 or 5 albums that I don't want to lift the needle off of, and this one did it for me. So what goes through your mind when you create this record? Do you just assemble old riffs, or do you have a plan on this thing?
Actually, no. In the way I record albums, really, especially doom albums, and this is why I love doom metal so much. Like as everyone knows, I play in Raven and all these rock bands and things. But doom metal's a sort of thing. It's that ethereal inside that comes out, and I literally channel these songs. I don't go down with some riff in mind down in my room to start recording. I just put the tape on in my hands, put my hands on the neck, and then it all comes out. And I'm serious about that. I'm like, wow, that's great. I'm glad I've got the tape rolling. And it builds from that. I come up with several good riffs for a song, and then just, then I go to arranging it, and then go in the studio, and then other things happen. I start layering stuff on top that makes the song even better, and it kind of changes the face of it. And that's the way I've been operating for quite some time. But that's why I like it, because it does come from somewhere else, whereas a rock format like as hard rock or new wave or British heavy metal, that's something more like riffs that you think out and you put it down and you make it, and you make it happen. And but the doom metal stuff is, there's really nothing to follow other than maybe like an old Black Sabbath album or something. But I like their feel and their creepy feel and their the huge sound, and that's how so I think about that. But really, I'm not really copying them, but I get that kind of sound, and then it goes from there. So really, that's how that works.
All of the tones fit and work together.
Yeah.
I love the way that it progresses, even into some of the ballads. The cover of the mountain cover, "Don't Look," is phenomenal. It gives me goosebumps.
Well, yeah, I used to play with Leslie, so that was my tip of my hat to Leslie, because when I was very young, he gave me a big chance with him to play drums. I was probably 17, and actually played with Leslie West, and he wanted to continue playing, but he wasn't in the best situation money-wise and health-wise, and so it didn't happen. But he's a lot of the reason I went professional instead of just being some local band, because I saw how he was doing it, and I said, I want to have a piece of that, and I can get a piece of that. That's all he's doing is going out playing original music. And he got big for it, so, I made the wise or unwise choice to follow in his footsteps. So,
well, you know what? That's what makes original music great, and that's what keeps. That's the difference between even this record, The Ninth Hour. Different than new metal. It isn't rock and roll, but there's some rock and roll that's like how part of the nutrition of it, like the
right.
Carbohydrates of the record.
Right. I was very lucky with this studio to have, the guy had a very, the studio I recorded it in, the guy had a very organic sound, and it wasn't all slicked up Pro Tools and all this, and it was digital, but he powered his whole studio with with tube power, so I got the real sound, and some of it has an old feel of an old Uriah Heep album or something, and I said, wow, I gotta have that. That's great. I recorded with him once doing an EP, and I was pretty sold on his studio, and he's close by, so. And but yeah, he's a guitar player, the engineer, and he definitely has the patience to get me through it. A day of recording, on guitars and stuff, and so it was. It just had an old feel to it, playing in there, and the way we recorded, and so that had a lot to do with the album. And our mastering was done by S.A. Adams, who's also pretty famous on his own. He said, he plays these guitar players, playing all over Europe, and he did an incredible job mastering the album, brought out a lot of the polish in it, and brought it up to date with the old type of sound. So
tones of the guitar are incredible and just perfectly crunchy. Can't tell if it's a Model T or some kind of Laney-ish or just a
I'm playing
Girl
through
Marshall.
I'm playing through a PV Triple X head and some old Marshall cabinets.
Oh, okay. So
and it's very loud amp, like an Ingle or something like that, but it's not as expensive. But it really had the sound. I tried out a million amps. I tried out every kind, and I plugged that in, and I played War Pigs, and that was the sound. So I'll take this, wrap it up.
like a PV triple rectifier, but a 5150. Is it 100 watt?
No, it's a triple X. It's called a Triple X, and it's a 100 watt tube amp.
Awesome.
And really, really ass kicking amp. There's only one sound you can get out of it, though, that's heavy. The rest of them, you should be in a rockabilly band.
Okay. Yeah.
But I found the one setting that's takes you back to volume 4 tone.
Sure. Well, that's a lot of things I was going to get around to with this. I mean, we go through this record. I'll try and put it in a nutshell. The first track is The Ninth Hour. Then you have Heavier Than Thou, Suburban Witch, Restless. So we're looking at a doomy beginning. You got The Cook, Heavier Than Thou, Suburban Witch, just an all right third kind of jammy, fucking great stuff. And then a awesome ballad. Restless is just fantastic. And I wouldn't call it people get afraid of the word ballad, but truthfully, it is it's glorious dynamically right there. It's
I thought about when I was writing this album, I didn't want to put any throwaway stuff or anything that was just kind of all right. That's all right. I wanted to do something that's very consistent. And I came to that song as I was writing the song. I was actually singing some kind of words to it, and it worked out. I said, well, there's a song right there. I have to work on this one because I'm already getting the vocal stuff is coming out. So, and it's power ballad thing. Well, as I've learned over the years of touring the world, that a lot of these real heavy-duty death metal kids, if you really pick their brain, they like power ballads too. Secretly, it's their guilty pleasure, and so I thought I'd do one, Oz style a little bit for them, and the song is, it has some good, real orchestrated pieces in it, and putting it together, Marty Sweeney plays bass on this album from Pentagram, and it was a challenge for him because he'd never put together music like that. We'd rehearse things to death, go in and cut it, but he never put things together, actually build a song, and that was a unique thing for him to do, and now he's hooked on recording that way. So that was the song that changed his mind about it all.
It reminded me of getting to go backwards to my youth with my little Craig stereo and putting vinyl on. It just was a great song for me, fucking great. And then I think my favorite, Salem. Oh my goodness. This piece is just amazing. It's the style of an octave melodic harmony groove that you got going, and then there's like layered tabla and percussion.
Right.
What's the story of this piece?
This piece was very different, and this piece is the one song on here. Well, they all have something that I personally relate to. All the songs do. This song is based on a true story. It's not a story. It's true. What something that happened to my son and I. Long ago, we had a very extreme paranormal situation in our house in Virginia where we once lived. And it was all because I had artifacts dating back to the Salem witch trials. And it took over my house. And my son and I barely made it through that alive without the help of some real professionals in the field, ministers, rabbis, you name it, anybody I could get to help, because it was a very cursed item, and of course I never believed in those kinds of things. I was very interested in it, but didn't believe it until it happens to you. And when it happens to you, it's like having, it's definitely it's an infestation, like having flies all over your house. It's that type of thing. It's spiritual, and you have to get rid of it. What we happened to have, though, was very ancient, very close to being the devil himself, and really destroyed my life for about 20 years, and my son and everything. And we managed to get rid of it. It came to a head and attacked us, and by going through all this, and here's a person who doesn't believe in it, this kind of spiritualism and this kind of thing, suddenly I'm thrust in the middle of it, and I have to become an expert because of my son, my young son. I had to protect him. So I learned the story of these cursed items, who they belong to. I learned the real story of the Salem witch trials, that now they're just now finding diaries that point to the thing I already know, the new evidence they found. But it's about this man who caused the whole thing, and literally his spirit was in my house with his wife. And so this is what the song's about. This is my personal experience. And I have a line in there where I kicked the devil in his grave, and that's where he lies today, because I did. I kicked him back in his grave in Salem, where he belongs, never to hurt anyone again. So that comes from a true story, and it was death-defying to get out of it, and we did it. We managed to do it. We had help, and a lot of people in metal don't believe in God. They go, "Oh, that's for sick and that's ridiculous." Well, if there was no God, I wouldn't have gotten out of this. He came to our rescue and sent the people to us that we needed to get out of this. The phone would ring, and they knew about the house here. How do you know this? Well, I'm psychic, and I know what's going on. All my help came that way, and I got rid of it, the thing. But I'd had it for years, and it's affected a lot of people near and around me, too. It's not just me. So these things do exist, and I thought it was important to write a song about it, because I've gone through this tunnel and come out the other end into the sunshine. So, and the rest of the album, very much praising God because of it. So that's how I put it, and I think there's no heavier subject than God. If you want to get heavy, that's what it's really about. But a lot of people don't agree with that and with me, and that's fine. They can think what they want. But when times of trouble come, there's no one else that will get you out of it on certain things. So that's what happened. That's the truth of that story.
That's incredible. It sounds like in the story of Salem that the guy was, I'm trying to think of the guy that must have came back, and he was so evil that it sounds like this story, he murdered his wife for jealousy or something? Is that the...
Yeah, he did. He did, and she told me so. The spirit, the wife spirit, protected my son and I, gave us a heads up on what was happening. But she couldn't do it much longer. And this is, you can do all kinds of things when something like this happens. You have to maybe have a seance or an automatic writing session. You have to hire a spiritual medium, someone who is born with this gift. And I learned a lot about the other side. But that's why the song itself really, even I wrote the song, and I listened to it, but when I listen to that, when that song comes on, it's a paradigm shift. Everything changes, the room changes. everything changes because it really, I think the music and everything really speaks to the roots of that episode that happened in 1692. It has the feel, and hopefully I'll do a video for this. Got a great video idea, and so we're kind of pushing that. With my publicist trying to push that song.
You're just the Hounds of Hasselvander, or is it just you at this when you?
But no, it's a band. I actually have Marty Swaining from Pentagram still in the band. I have T.C. Tolliver from the Plasmatics playing drums now, and we just finished a recording last year, actually in tandem with the Ninth Hour, called Ancient Rocks. It's all a cover record of songs from the early 70s, late 60s. And it's very rock and roll. People are going to go, wait a second, what's he doing here? Well, it's, I like Humble Pie and bands like that too. So I've got that kind of thing going on in this album. It's a tribute to all the bands that never got any credit, and they influenced me heavy as a kid, and I don't understand why they're not legendary today. So I'm putting these out there in hopes that it's a party album for me, and on the other hand, it's a way for people to get hip to bands like Bang and Boomerang and Jerusalem and these kinds of bands. I do all these songs, and I want them to check out the real album. If you dig this, check out the other material these guys did. So that's what I'm going for. I actually do a Bob Seger song on this album. It's from the Bob Seger system, which was a very, very heavy band. People don't realize that Bob was a heavy metal guitar god at one time. Then he just became a singer type, But his earlier works were very heavy, very loud band. I saw them, probably the loudest band I've ever seen was Bob Seger System.
Excellent, Joe. What's great about that, it sounds like hard rock to metal musicology at that point, then, just on a record itself.
It's coming out this month, so at some point.
Awesome. And lastly, on your recording, had no idea it was that intense. But here is the song "King," and you can, it sounds like the relief of this is just an epic, awesome song. And it closes your record, and it's the coming of a king. Can you explain about that?
That is really, as a lot of people said in the reviews of the album, and of course I said this from the beginning, that this album starts from damnation and ends up in redemption. And so this is my thank you to Christ for helping me get through what I went through. And and then I'm also trying to put the message out there that he came, he did his work, and now it's a different deal. And that people have to, before you die, you may have to be considering that choice because, I don't know that I do believe in an afterlife. I've had that shown, proof positive to me. So this is my thanks to God, basically, and I wanted to make this the biggest regal. I wanted to make that song a coronation, and that's exactly what I think I got with the help of Paulo Negri on the keyboards, because he has a real mellotron and real Hammond organ, and it sounds like, he just gives it the old, gives it a big King Crimson, Uriah Heep kind of thing on there. So it all came together just like I wanted, almost like a heavy metal hymn.
And his love for man, baptized with holy fire, across the burning sands, paid on earth in blood of ransom. He was more than just a man, went before the priests and elders.
So, Joe, on the record, what exactly did you do? Drums and drums, guitar, and production?
I did, yeah. I produced the album, and I produced just about all the albums I'm on. You know, even the Raven stuff, I produced a lot of it. And where John and Mark's ears get fried, I can step in and I can still hear what's going on, you know, so I could stay in the studio indefinitely, you know, I'm one of those kind of people. So I produce all this stuff. The reason I do a lot of these albums by myself is because I cut the cost way down. And then I don't have anyone arguing with me on how something should go. I just go in and record it and know, you know, until it's done. And that's cost effective. Time, not a lot of time is lost. But then this time around, I wanted to get Marty involved because Marty is, you know, he was the heavy thing behind Pentagram. I don't care what anyone says. Without Marty, Pentagram's nothing. He is their heavy sound. He's the guy with the tone. I got him on the record, and certainly right away it changed character into an even heavier thing. And so, you know, I just. So eventually, you know, we got TC to do the Ancient Rocks album. We also rehearsed to do the other songs, and it was an instant band. Instant. I mean, just like we've been playing together for 40 years, I said, all right, this is the group for me. And we were able to go in on one rehearsal and record the entire Ancient Rocks album. But I played guitar and sang on this album, but I mean on the Ninth Hour. And I produce it, but I'm hoping that to have a real-time band the next time I do a second one, another Hounds album after this. So, you know, and I do have a band. I've got Russ Strahan from Pentagram playing guitar with me now too. So we got a real super group together. Just gigs aren't coming fast and furious like for anybody that I know. It's not. Well, it's real. Right now it's very difficult. Even in Europe, it's tough to, you know, they're getting a lot pickier about who they bring over there. And South America is a place that's opening up, and I've been down a few times, and I'm going to try to bring this to South America, I think. United States, of course, everything's dead. It's all hip hop and this kind of thing. And so there's no place to play, and no club owners and it's all relegated to the clubs. So where you're dealing with club owners, of course, their business is usually alcohol and a front for drugs. So they don't want to pay the band anything, and no matter who you are. And so you have to be a real name brand, and it's all what's in the name, whether they're any good or not anymore. So a lot of my inspiration for writing music comes from me out in the woods, in the mountains, hiking mountains. This is what I do. I've done all my life. And this is where you want to see something heavy, go see a giant rock cliff, you know, that dwarfs you and things like that. This is what makes heavy music for me. And I'm a big-time nature boy, but that keeps me in the cosmic flow to even write songs. There are some people get their ideas from, I'm hanging out in the city, I'm in Manhattan, and I'm making the scene, and I'm writing my stupid, their songs all stink because it's just so superficial. And so I borrow my ideas from much bigger places than most people do. And, you know, and they got some great used vinyl around here. So used vinyl stores, man, I'm in there. And I listen to a lot of different records, and a lot of what happened with the Ninth Hour also. It's a very moody record. It's extremely moody. Of course, my mood wasn't great, so I was able to show that. And then I was also listening to a lot of Italian library music from 1970 and 69 from a guy named Giusto Macci. And he's done soundtracks and all. He's famous in Italy, but we haven't heard of him here. He just did library music, and I picked up some of these records, and his use of percussion and strange percussion instruments, and very overall uneasy feeling of dread throughout his music. Although there's some guitar, but it's a full orchestra too, and choral. but it's so sinister and bizarre. And I got a lot of my inspiration from these kind of records, not rock records. So I'm trying to put a little of that in there. I don't want to label myself as modern day George Gershwin, but that's kind of what I'm trying to do. I'm trying to put some of the old orchestra elements into a heavy metal band.
How did this start? Did you have a jazz drum teacher? You started as a drummer, or did you start?
I taught myself. I taught myself how to play when I was 7 years old, and I got the Rolling Stones' second album, 12 by 5, and I learned how to play drums from listening to Charlie Watts. And so I learned that whole album, and by the time I got on a drum set, which was a year later, I already knew how to play. So people were amazed, and my brother's 10 years older than me, so all of his band buddies are there, and I get on the drums, and they were expecting, this kid, well, he thinks he's going to play the drums. I got on there, and it was better than their drummer. And the guy wanted to quit my brother's band. He goes, you don't need me, you need him. And I just had it right there, and I remember my second gig ever. I had a kid corner me in the bathroom, and I was 8 years old. Kid cornered me in the bathroom at this venue and said, I'm going to beat the tar out of you if I ever see you play the drums again. You can't play the drums. You suck. You can't play. I'm going to beat the crap out of you if I ever see you again doing that. And I've kept that guy's speech in my head all my life because I've had thousands of those kind of idiots telling me I can't play because I don't play the way they want to hear it. Or whatever. It's all a matter of taste. But I still just do what I do. That guy he doesn't know what a favor he did me. It's kept me going in this business. But, I started out with this, and I played in local bands for a long time, and I played all this military club circuit and all this stuff when I'm very underage. I was in strip bars at 9 years old playing. I was playing on 14th Street in Washington, D.C., playing the Benny's Rebel Room and these places where Link Ray was scared to play. It was so rough. And we're playing these places, and I have had knives pulled on me, you name it, all this stuff. And then one day, I was in high school, and I was every summer I'd go on the road with some band called, they were called Odessa, and they had an album out on United Artists, so I would play with them every summer. It's when I was 17, and then I got an offer to play with the Platters one night. And some friends of mine were in the Platters, and they called me up, and I went to the gig, and they took a look at me. I was about 5'2" back then. I'm 6'5" now. But I was a little tiny kid with long hair. They thought I was a chick. They go, you brought this kid can't play the drums. I go, no, you haven't heard him. You got to hear him. So I play the gig. They don't come out. The band comes on, and they come walking out during a song, like Elvis or something. And they turned around and heard me playing, and they just all turned around and gave me the big thumbs up and offered me a job right there. I was 17, and I couldn't go. My mother said, no, you have to quit high school. I'm not letting you. So I stayed another year and finished, and then the following year I got with Leslie West.
Incredible.
And, just people like that. And, of course, I got with Pentagram and said, I'm going to try to do something here. And this is where I based my roots out of. And then Bobby and I were lucky enough to have a gig opening for Judas Priest in 79, which really sealed the deal for me. I said, that's it, I'll be doing this for life. And after speaking with Lynn Tipton and Ian Hill all night, we had to sit around with a bottle of scotch till dawn just talking about the music business. And they opened my eyes to a lot of things. Ian and Glenn are super people. The Priests are super guys. They always were. And they were real, just like regular people. And they told me about all their drummers and how they were fired from the band or they left or whatever. I'd heard those stories before from other people. And but they gave me my, that was when everything started rolling. Of course, in later years, of course, I'm a blue cheer freak, and this is where, that was when I said, okay, I'm going to play louder than hell the rest of my life, was when I heard blue cheer, and then eventually I ended up with them. Which on the last record, before the bassist Dickie Peterson died, we got to do, I was on their last record, and man, that was really awesome. It was like surreal.
That's incredible, Joe. I mean, that is just... And then Pentagram, and then into Hounds, right? And then into Modern Time.
No, what I did for Pentagram, I did Raven for. I've been doing Raven since.
I forgot Raven. Yeah.
I've been with Raven since 1987, and I've toured the world with them 100 times at least. And we're still touring. We're always playing somewhere. We just got back from Bolivia and Argentina and Brazil, and we're like superstars down there. So.
Well, it's Raven. I probably saw you in Chicago then.
Yeah, we played in Chicago with Testament a long time ago. Cubby Bears, a long time ago. That was my second tour with Raven, was with Testament and Raven, and it was, the music was changing then. It was becoming, I wouldn't even call it thrash. It was just more of a hardcore thing. The Bay Area sound was happening. Slayer, not Slayer, but Testament and Metallica and Exodus and all this, and Raven was still a classic rock band. Although they started a lot of the thrash and stuff, they just play their rock and roll faster, that's all. And listen, I never did that and never will do that, but I have played the biggest venues with them of any. I play all big. Just, we play small stuff, but we play, 30,000 a lot and stuff like that. I've been also, my biggest tour was with Raven and Running Wild years ago, and nothing was less than 10,000 seaters. And I cut a lot of my teeth in Raven because, and the other band that's really given me my big success over time. Pentagram was a cult metal band that kind of, didn't quite pop out of the top until the cult scene became bigger than the mainstream. And of course, the internet made that happen. The cult scene is much bigger. But for the mainstream, Raven's given me a nice ride, and I'm still playing with them, and I've been with those guys 27 years and never had argument one with them about anything. We all get along. We can't wait to see each other and go out and play some music and have, it's like the men's club. We get away from the wives or girlfriends and kick it up and act like we're 20 again. But they're great musicians. They're fantastic, and I'll never leave the band. I'll be with them till the end, But they don't do, like, the doom metal thing, that's something they don't get into. They like it, but that's not their forte. So I don't write a lot of stuff for them. Architect of Fear was one Raven album that is very dark, almost like Pentagram, and I had a lot to do with making that album like that. But we never went back to that again, so.
They're just high energy, just sonic. I mean... I went and the drummer had the hockey gear on back when I saw him. I don't know when that was. It might have been 80, 80s, 83.
81 or something, 82.
Yeah, wow.
Yeah, Rob, and I'm friends with Rob Wacko. He's an engineer, and that's what he does now today. And he's on the right side of the music business. He makes the money. So he does well. He's got some Grammys on his wall for records he's done, and I think he would love to play again, but, being an artist or a musician or a writer, man, your paychecks aren't regular. Of course, this yourself from your own experience, but it's everybody taking your publishing or something else. My deals are a little better now because I know what to look for, but, in the past I've taken many bad ones that, I should be in the lap of luxury today, but I didn't keep my eye on the ball, but what young musician does?
this is a great turning point here. We'll go into the last of the conclusion sections that are kind of fun here. Let's do
Okay.
apples and oranges
Okay.
first. And your first question is this: you just compare and you just say what you want.
Okay.
Alice Cooper or Arthur Brown?
Alice Cooper.
Stones or Kinks?
Ooh, that's hard. Stones.
Drums or guitar?
Can't. That's an even one. I can't. I would have to say drums since I'm a drummer. I trade.
I love the can'ts. That happens a lot. And this one I won't even ask, but I will ask it because you've been through an experience to where you don't do this anymore. Beer or wine? Because you don't.
Well, if I had to, wine.
Okay. Here's one. Presidential elections or the Olympics?
Neither one. How's that? I have disdain for both.
Awesome. Life or death?
Life.
Awesome. Joe, that's great. That's apples and oranges. That's just
All right.
the answers to that one. And let me do this. Let's say name that riff. And what you have to do, I did this to Greg Anderson and from Sun. I nailed him with the Uriah Heep thing. And what it is I sing the guitar part, and you have to guess what it is.
Okay.
Let's see if I can pull this off. Boom, 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 boom.
That would be the Ninth Hour.
All right, you got it. All right, the last thing we do here on the show, every artist does this, and it's the conclusion, and it's what would you like to say to the entire world at this time today?
What I'd like to say to the entire world is don't let all this garbage that's happening that you see in the news and the idealistic wars and all this stuff that go between the elites and the not-haves, the haves and not-haves, don't let it bother you. Don't put your mind at that. Don't operate on their level. Operate on your level. Do you remember when things were good in the 1970s or the 60s, where you could look any way you wanted to, live off the land if you wanted to? If you wanted to be a rock star, you could be one. Anything you want to do, you can still be all that. Don't let these people, the elites, bring you down and step on you so that you are nothing more than relegated to being an ape, a modern ape, because you're not. You're a spiritual being. And you're having a spiritual experience throughout your life. Don't let any group of people or anybody tell you to be different than what you are. Play it from your heart, play it from the hip, and mix it up a little, shake it up a little in this world. Don't go down, don't leave the world without leaving your mark in some way, especially in loving your friends, your family, and helping people out who you don't even know. That's what I have to say.